Welcome to the Cincy Postcast. I'm your host, Kevin Wallace, and before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Streetside Brewery. Look, these guys are awesome. They have been supporting us all season long, and we are so incredibly thankful for their partnership. An awesome brewery over on the east side of Cincinnati, the Columbia-Tusculum neighborhood. Find them over on Eastern Avenue, 4003 Eastern Avenue. The tap room there is just perfect for an FCC away day, a nice casual drink. They've always got food available with a rotating cast of food trucks. Always a good time. So thankful for Streetside for sponsoring us. Now, I do want to say, coming up this weekend, a couple of events you're going to want to keep an eye on. The FA Cup final watch party on May 25th. That is kicking off at 10 a.m. So you can check that out. Also, May 26th at 9 a.m., a Formula One watch party. So if you have not been out to watch an FCC match, that's fine, especially the home games. Totally understand you may be actually attending the events, but they've got some pretty cool watch parties as well available. Again, this weekend, the 25th, 26th FA Cup and Formula One. So just again, a huge thank you to Streetside for sponsoring this episode. And on this episode, we are talking about a 6-match FC Cincinnati win streak. Can you believe it? Sure you can. This team is like really good and sneaky deep these days. We go all over this game. 4 goals scored by FC Cincinnati, 3 of them for FC Cincinnati. It's a very fun recap. We wrap it all up with some Patreon questions. You put it together, you got yourselves a winning streak postcast. Oh, and joining me to talk about all of that and more, I am joined by 2 gentlemen who just can't remember the last time this team lost. I'm joined by, of course, the Chief, but we are joined this time around by Jonah. Jonah, how you feeling tonight?
It's just another day as an FCC fan. Just tired of the winning, but we'll take it. It's better than the losing, I guess. Feeling great. Great Sunday. Great to see you. Glad your video and your mic is alive, Kevin. The world couldn't have handled a Monday without the Cincy Postcast, so I'm glad it's heading that way.
Would have tried. I think it would have succeeded too. You know, it's funny you mention can't remember the last time this team lost. I actually had to look up because I was trying to remember. I knew we lost to New York. And I was trying to remember who the other team we'd lost to was. Montreal, who is dog water awful, just terrible. Makes no sense.
That's
6
just
in a row,
MLS. That's just MLS. Like the all-time points record holder, right? They lost to some dumb teams. We took some points off of some teams in our worst years. You know, that's just how it goes. I think in that time, Montreal did fire their like chief soccer operations guy or whatever. So they're in more turmoil now than they were then. That's how I'm gonna cope with this. But yeah.
Somebody posted online, you can tell that summer is right around the corner because I don't know about you, but when you go in to the Teak and you sit there to watch a game, first off, they've put that giant inflatable soccer ball in the corner, which I think just exists to block the sunlight from just
Is that
beaming.
it?
That's
been my theory.
Because it creates a perfect eclipse right there, which I do love. But the surest sign that summer is approaching and that summer is truly here is that when they pop the smoke, when the pyro goes off, it just lingers a little longer down in the stadium seating bowl. And that haze, looking through that haze, watching soccer through that haze, that's when I know summertime with the FC is here.
We made it. We're back.
We're back.
Baby.
Summertime just hits different, doesn't it, Jonah?
I had a guy, it wasn't the season ticket holder. He must have sold his ticket to a friend. He was eating, apparently there's like some kimchi fries or something like that. And it was just, listen, I'm not a very cultured man. I'm a chicken tenders kind of guy. I was hating life. Just a guy just chowing down, this hot sun beating down on his kimchi fries, and he's just scarfing it. And like, my son is with me. He's stuffed up. He's got allergies. I'm like whispering in his ear, like, can you believe this? He's like, I can't smell anything. I was like, well, trust me, it's bad. But so shout out to that guy. He was not, it's not obviously the same as like eating a can of tuna on a plane, but and that, son, it was kind of close. So if you're listening, I'm going to remember you.
Kimchi fries, that's a bold idea at any kind of a sporting event, because, you know, anytime you're eating a product with any sort of fermented item on it,
yeah,
you're kind of taking your night into you're taking your night at a little bit of faith at that point. I think there's a lot of ways that can go poorly.
Yeah, of all of the foods you'd hope like stadium could get right, that's near the bottom of the list of like what my
kimchi
expectations are, right? It's
like, don't know how I feel about that.
A grilled salmon at the stadium. You're like, I don't know.
I'm going to find out it was something not even close to kimchi. And that's just how like horrible my palate is. Like, this guy's eating kimchi fries. He's like, this is barbecue, which actually I would eat.
It was just sauerkraut on the hot dog.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just a fucking idiot. I had a friend. I'm just thinking about this guy's breath the rest of the night, but we're going to a party like late in high school, you know, so we got to be on our game because we're desperate to touch a woman's shoulder, if anything. My friend's like, oh, I read it. Like, if you swallow a garlic clove, it really clears you up or something. It was a little off with him. I was like, okay. I mean, I wasn't doing it, but so he swallows a whole garlic clove the whole night. Within 10 feet of him, he's just like protruding garlic smell. It was so strong. It was so rough. And I was like, God, this guy just might as well just had a big hole in his pants and a micro penis, because nothing's going on for this guy tonight. Because I was like, I couldn't even be by. I was like, I don't want people to think this is me. So I think about that every time. And I was like, man, it really smells like garlic. He's like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that right before we went to a party. I'm like, yeah, it's the exact opposite the thing you want to do. Shout out to him.
Keeps the vampires away, though. So that's always useful.
Vampires,
this man was in no
women.
danger of joining the ranks of the undead on that night.
Or the sexed, that's for sure. Although neither was I, so who can blame him?
Oh God, Jonah, we are blessed by your presence tonight.
Sure.
I guess I'll ask the question on everybody's mind. What you been up to? Is there the last time you disappeared for some period of time? I'm not blaming you, and I'm not giving you credit you don't want, but I'm just saying last time you disappeared for a hint, Opie showed up. So like, what's showing up here?
I need a name for. Did we come up with a name for female Opie? Isn't that should be the next like Rosie Red, you know, he needs a compatriot or something. And once again, I'm sitting behind Katie Solomon. I'm like, this is the time I'm going to break it to her. She's sitting right in front of Opie. I didn't have the balls to do it yet again, but I haven't been doing much. You know, I got 1 week left of work. I'll let you figure out what I do, where I work. But let's just say I have the summers off. But just counting down the days, 4 more days. And I want to say you graciously invited me on the Hell is Real episode.
Yes.
And listening afterwards, this isn't an insult. There wasn't a centimeter of space for another guest. You guys had that thing full to the brim. You definitely didn't mean. You guys had a lot to discuss, whether it was Chiefs, pre-match thoughts, or whatever else the rest of you guys said. It was too dense. So that was a smart decision by me. I did want to say shout out to Grayson, who's not here. I feel like I am the anti-Grayson. And only because I notice he has a lot of pregnant pauses where he thinks about what he's going to say.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. For some reason, I treat this like we're on a live radio broadcast. I'm like, all right, I just got to start talking. And then as soon as I'm done, I got to get out. But I'm like, can you do that? Can you just pause and actually think about your reasoned take? So I won't be doing that. So yeah.
You can't do that. It's when the absence of audio creates the void, and the void is terrifying. Staring into the void is an existential crisis I don't want to experience. So I'm going to I'm going to take my way through the entire thing. Just it's going to be take after take after take. We're not going to pause. There are no brakes on this car. It's nonstop. It's a nonstop flight, if you will, folks.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I think Grayson might be the first podcaster sponsored by Red Bull. They're like, this guy, he takes breaks in the middle of podcast. He's living on the edge. We're taking no take breaks, but he's not. So I'll try my best.
No, I appreciate the let's say the change in energy. In terms of where Grayson is, I don't have a clue. I'm always excited to find out where Grayson has been when he comes back. It very well could be
Tanzania.
Visiting a buddy up at the Arctic Circle, maybe. There could be.
He's our version of Carmen Sandiego. You never know.
It's got to be wine there, though, or some sort of.
That is true.
Snooty
or some
drink.
sort of like wine adjacent product. Like wine is fine or whatever, but Grapes. It's got to be like natural wine or like some sort of weird alcoholic elixir that hasn't made it to Cincinnati yet. There
wasn't a wine festival, but there was a peanut butter and jelly convention somewhere, and that's close enough. God damn it.
Wine adjacent. Yeah.
It's basically the same thing, right?
Kimchi.
Oh, well, good. Glad to have you here. Hey, let's talk about FC Cincinnati getting their revenge against St. Louis City over the weekend. The scumbags, indeed. Chief, I'm surprised we didn't get more scumbag talk from you. If folks aren't familiar, actually, I'll let you explain. Could you explain why somebody in St. Louis might be upset if you said the word scumbag to them?
They have the thinnest skin imaginable, like tissue paper level. No, it was last year. It was about 2/3 of the way through the season, I would say. Lucho Acosta scored an incredible goal, what would go on to be the MLS goal of the year, where Lucho single-handedly, I think, beat every member of, was it Charlotte? I want to say?
It was Charlotte, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Every member of the Charlotte FC players to score what amounted to a 1-on-11 goal. Incredible. It was up for goal of the week. And one of the other goals that was up against it was from some absolute nobody on St. Louis. I don't even remember the man's name because that's how little of an importance he was. And it happened to be his first goal. And the St. Louis fan base decided we needed to celebrate this man's otherwise mid first goal by voting it up to win player of the week. And so I went on to, one of my social media accounts and said, all FC Cincinnati fans need to vote on this. We can't let this scumbag from St. Louis win. Going for a little bit of an alliteration there, trying to keep it PG-13. I don't know. And boy, were they offended by the word scumbag in a way I didn't think anyone outside of the 1920s would be. So, yeah, I got taken a little bit to task by St. Louis fans. And I did what most, rational adults would do. And that was I doubled down and started fighting with people online. And so, yes, they are, in fact, scumbags. I'll set the table with this, and we'll start with this before the game. I hate the city of St. Louis. It is by far my least favorite city that I have visited. It is filled with some of the most insufferable people, mostly because they're Cardinals fans, and Cardinals fans are the absolute worst people known to mankind. Yes. They couldn't support their NFL team, so that went and left town. Their pizza is terrible. They put this awful cheese called Provel cheese on it that absolutely ruins anything that you would ever want from pizza. Their local cuisine is toasted ravioli, which is really just Hot Pocket bites. It's not like fine dining by any stretch of the imagination. It's the home of Anheuser-Busch, Anheuser-Busch being the absolute worst of the American macro brews. It is light years behind Coors. It is light years behind Miller. Their secondary offerings and products are trash. The monument in the city, the Arch of St. Louis, is the gateway to the West. It's a literal monument about going someplace else other than St. Louis. If you want to do more reading about St. Louis, whatever you do, don't Google St. Louis plus or St. Louis plus or anything like that. Certainly don't read about thing like that. It's a horrible place. The only good thing to come out of St. Louis, the only good thing is Nelly and the St. Lunatics, and most people don't know Murphy Lee was a better rapper than Nelly. So there you go.
I loved the rant. I'd throw Pat Noonan in there as a solid contribution to the world. But
No,
other
he's
than
ours
that,
now. He's
no
ours
notes.
now. No, he's ours now. In the fine Cincinnati tradition, we claim other people. It's kind of like the Mormons. We baptize people that might not have even been Mormon. Like, we are baptizing Pat Noonan right now into Cincinnati. He'll be able to pick a high school that he went to. We've talked about this before. Carter Chapley, same way. Although he's Canadian, he only worked in St. Louis and went to college in St. Louis. But
That's
so
true.
he's not really from St. Louis. But no, they're ours now. We have washed the sin and the stain of St. Louis off them.
What is the ceremony we could do for somebody like in absentia, right? Like they're not there, but we got to like, do we douse their image in Cincinnati chili? Do we, I don't know, make a pilgrimage from Fountain Square to the river? What is the ritual we do to claim somebody?
We light 3 cheese conies on fire and then douse their image with a ladle of Skyline. Or no, we set 3 bags of Grippos on fire. And then make a prayer to Harambe.
A pilgrimage to the zoo to pray at the altar of Harambe is pretty good. I like that.
Yeah.
If you could get like a makeshift choir to get on the suspension bridge and find that tone and match the tone, kind of like a monk drone, like, I feel like that could unlock the gateway, or gateway, I said gateway to some other dimension, probably.
Bunch of
Bring
hooded
their soul
figures,
back, yeah.
hooded figures from the Order of Harambe walking across the suspension bridge trying to find the tone that opens the gateway.
Chief, this would be near and dear to your heart. If we were a proper country, and dare I say, not even a country, a proper society, the lost art of the men's association, the men's lodge, the Odd Fellows home, the you still see a handful of the Shriners or the Masons or the American Legion. Cincy Jacks is in there. I just say the Order of Harambe should have already been created at this point. Like, and there should be chapters of the Order of Harambe.
I think we just did.
I mean,
don't underestimate your power, Kevin. Your words have power. Yeah.
The noble Order of Harambe.
The noble Order of Harambe. Because when life's got you down, we will endanger the life of a small child. We'll figure out a tagline later.
What is it like? Don't let life drag you around.
Perfect. I assume the internet is way ahead of me on this. Don't let life drag you around. Damn, that's pretty good. We got to find that kid, though.
He's going to be president someday. So
he's missing out on a lot of something. There's some money in there. I don't know exactly, but do
you think him and that dude that kid that ran onto the field a couple years back, you think they've ever met and just high-fived one another?
Oh, what was his name? He had a weird, an unusual, uncommon Z name, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's ringing a bell.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's a good name.
I do have a confession to make while we're insulting children, which is one of Kevin's favorite pastimes, as we all know.
True story.
One of my favorite things.
It was my son's last soccer game today, since he baby talk here. I booed a kid for the first time. I never booed him. I booed him. I mean, it was a gentle, it was like, boo, but, that's a legit boo when no one else is making any noises.
What do you do? What do you do?
First of all, this kid is chief size. He was playing goalie. They're up like 5-0. He dribbles out of the back all the way like to midfield. It's just like they're not even supposed to score anymore. And like dribble all the way, and then like he just kind of like boots it, and he was like, "Oh, I was just bored." And I was like, boo. So I do that. And then like later he gets the ball by the edge of the box, dribbles it all the way backwards towards his own goal. And then just when he gets to the goal line, not in front of the goal, obviously, he blasts the ball full as hard as he can straight into the woods.
Oh.
And my son's like chasing him back and just like looking around, shrugging. And then he does that. It's like, boo. And then God bless, the ref gave him a yellow card. It's like me and my wife are just clapping like, yeah. But I was like, fuck these kids, man. Anyway, so if your kid goes to Summit, he sucks.
It would be a psycho move at a kid's soccer game to get the entire crowd booing every time one kid touched the ball. Like give him the Frankie Amaya treatment.
Boo.
Sounds like you could have done it with this kid if he kept going.
I know. Oh my God. I want to tell you after the game, like, hey, if I was out there and I was 10-year-old you, I'm taking that kid's legs out. Like, that's the way I played. That's the way I'll always play. So mercifully, that season is over. But yeah.
Nice.
Booing kids. Let's boo some adults. What else? Did you guys notice before you get into the start of the game?
Please.
We've talked about how loud it is, like that section for the away supporters. When it's full, it's just like it's loud. Unfortunately, yes. It's like the way it's set up. So I saw how many St. Louis fans, they traveled well. They're loud at the beginning. I can't say it didn't last long. I mean, the game was pretty close for most of the game, even though we were dominating it, but they faded out pretty quick. So I'm just going to say not only are, what's the word you're using, Chief? Scumbags. Not only are they scumbags, quiet scumbags. Don't have the decency to be loud scumbags. So St. Louis fans, I'm disappointed in you.
Silent scumbags from St. Louis.
Silent scumbags from St. Louis.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not able to attend this match, unfortunately. I know. Fan, fake tickets. Let me be clear. Tickets have never stopped me from attending a game one way or the other.
That's the postcast commitment right there.
That's how we do this, baby. Turn off all my tickets. Go for it. You won't find them. How was the St. Louis away crowd? It looked good from pictures.
There were a lot of St. Louis fans at this game, and they were spread out throughout the stadium as well. They clearly had gone onto the secondary market and done their homework. They had a pretty full away section, and I agree with Jonah. They were pretty loud at the start, but once the match kicked off, I mean, we'll talk about it, but this was an ass whipping. There wasn't a lot to get up for if you were rooting for St. Louis. I mean, they barely even had the ball, much less created any threatening opportunities. But if they had the performance similar to the one last year against FC Cincinnati, they would have been loud and very, very easy to hear, I think, with what the setup is there. They need to install like a giant white noise machine up in that corner just to drown the sound of the visiting supporters out, I think.
Some like shitty fans up top that just go real loud over it. Yeah.
Or the official sound of summer, just somebody running a leaf blower at maximum volume as early in the morning as possible.
I thought you were going to say cicadas. So I was like, yeah, let's get them in there. Let's fucking get them in there.
A cicada breeding center right in that corner.
Wasps.
God, Cincy's wild, man.
Sick of their weird bugs on us.
Sick of their weird bugs and serving us kimchi fries. It's really weird.
I got to find out if those even exist because I'm going to look hilarious when everyone's like, what are you talking about?
I feel like
kimchi fries.
You mean, the Cheetos. I feel like Footy Scran would have it. Surely somebody at some point would have sent kimchi French fries to Footy Scran.
I'm sure I'll say our. Yeah, well, fuck you guys. I'm sure our fans of the podcast will correct me or confirm what I'm saying. Either on Discord or in the tweets. So let me know, please. I need
Does to know. This exist? If it does, where can we get it? I'm curious.
Yeah. And can you put a Buskin cookie in it?
That sounds horrific.
That sounds awful.
I see Korean fire fries.
That's got to be it.
It does have kimchi. Doesn't look quite well. That's always the case. It doesn't look quite well.
It looks really nice in the
picture. So yeah, you never know. All right.
I'd love an honest stadium photo. Like, this is just the sad little sack of French fries you get with like 2 pieces of kimchi on top. You'll love it.
People are hungry. They're going to buy it anyways. So they're desperate.
No, a point I feel like needs to be reiterated every so often because it will come up again in the future. The away fans are always louder in general because think about who is the type of fan who is likely to travel and buy the supporter ticket. It's like stereotypically, if you take like the loudest, most like engaged and drunk Bailey members, they're the most likely to travel. Like the random uncle that you're dragging to the game, or the buddy from work who has never been to a soccer game and you just like didn't have anybody else to bring. They're not the ones making the multi-100-mile travel to the away stadium. It's the committed fans. They know all the songs. They'll figure out a way to smuggle in a noisemaker or two. Like I always hate this conversation because it's true everywhere. Like the traveling fans, should they exist in any real number, are always louder than your average rest of your stadium. So I just want to point that out again. I don't know. Maybe people already know this and that was dumb, but like I feel like people misunderstand this a lot. But then the game kicked off. Oh my God, I didn't see anything of this. Maybe you two can answer this. Who pulled the sword?
It was a salute to service night. So they had, for the pre-match, they had representatives from all the branches of the service, except, this is a pet peeve of mine. They had representatives there from the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Marines, with the Coast Guard as well. No Space Force. I feel like this is Space Force erasure. And they are, in fact, a branch of the service. And I think we need to get our shit together a little bit and make sure that we are not leaving out any of the heroes that serve this country in space.
They're on the front lines. They couldn't afford to take them off just for a ceremony. Okay, they're fighting the good fight up there.
Hey, the shields were up. They couldn't beam down.
They're fist fighting Russians in the International Space Station as we speak. So
just because the media won't report on the war on that front doesn't mean it's not being fought. Okay.
I thought for sure you were going to tell me that the Coast Guard was left off, because that feels like the most likely to be left off.
No, it's the Space Force. It's sad.
Damn.
I stand with our Space Force heroes. I want you to know that you have an ally on this podcast.
Is it that there aren't enough like Space Force folks around? Yeah, like I don't know.
Stop making excuses for him, Kevin.
Right?
And then you had former Green Beret Kathy Wade singing the national anthem. So you didn't know. She's not a Green Beret, but shout out there.
The sword puller was a veteran, and it was an electric little moment right there. Love it. Love to see it.
Were they feeling it?
Yeah, I was feeling it. Yeah. Only thing that I was disappointed in the Bailey that they didn't immediately go into the USA chant. They went into the FCC chant.
That's an
FCC chant plays 99 times out of 100. In this moment, was looking for the USA chant right there.
Damn.
So, some have said they're one and the same because we're America's team. So
that's a good point, Jonah. I stand corrected.
Last time I saluted a soldier, he just looked at me and said FCC. And I wasn't even wearing any gear. But shout out to Kathy Wade. You remember, she used to be a big deal when we were younger, this is pre-Nick Lachey. We didn't have a lot of, we had a Rosemary Clooney. We really grasp on to any Cincinnatian who's known beyond Cincinnati, even if it's like someone who's like a jazz singer who's not that incredibly popular, but it's like Grammy nominated, like Kathy Wade. We got her. We had Jerry. So a good performance. I feel like for the most part we've knocked out the anthems this year. Yeah. I don't think there's been anywhere I'm like ooh. So if we could get one who's kind of a bust. It's fun for me and my wife to nudge each other, when you hear that wonky note. babe, we're losing it.
It's not good.
They're doing it.
Oh my God.
I am looking forward to the day, though. I know he was here in town. Said it before, I'll say it again. I am looking forward to the day when Mitch pulls the sword. That will be that may be really the last get for FC Cincinnati in terms of someone with a connection to the club that should come back and get a hero's welcome pulling the sword, I would think. Well, I'll say the biggest of the remaining people out there that deserves to get the shine of we pull a blunt sword from a movable stone and people go crazy for it.
It's like a half-built well. It's weird. Yeah. I was just going to look up, is old Harrison Delbridge still playing? He is.
I don't think he's bigger than Mitch, though.
No, but
He
he's
didn't.
close. I
You
think
get
he's
a
close.
Mitch says no chant going around around the Bailey. All the kids can be like, "Why is everyone saying this?" Like, son, let me educate you about how this club first started.
Yeah, we'd have to explain a lot of Harrison Delbridge. Like, no, you don't. No.
No.
I even heard a few for GB, which really broke my heart. They're like, oh, he was a big player for us at USL. I'm like, God damn it.
For 1 year.
Time is just flying. Yeah. But also Mitch was one of your first big gets, He was a big guest for the postcast. I think he helped get the ball rolling.
He was like the first. Oh my God, Blandford. If we haven't heard enough from him, I was going to say he felt like our first real guest. Like everybody else was either we knew them or they were already associated with FCC. I think like Dan McNally and Alex Steck were pretty early on.
Jeff Reuter too. He was an early on guest. But no, Mitch was the first. I've told people this. Mitch was the first time when we were doing this where I was genuinely nervous to do the interview.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like, oh God, what do we say to Mitch? He's a hero.
I'm fanboying.
And I think that was right before he actually got back into coaching proper. I think he was still debating being a real estate agent in Michigan, I think. So
he was working for a youth team up there, or like a second division team, like the Red Stars or the Red Wolves or something like that up there in Michigan. Yeah. And then within probably 2 months, 3 months, he's back working with St. Louis, I want to say.
Yeah, or Sporting Kansas City, then St. Louis. Yeah. He was their goalkeeper coach. Yeah, he'd be a good one.
He's doing a great job, apparently. Teaching Berkey everything he knows.
Man,
he should take
what a
full
sweet
credit.
gig.
He's like, God, good one. Nice one.
Keep up the good work, man. Just keep doing that.
They're like the same age.
When I played, let me tell you, this is what I did.
Has Berkey ever had that penalty shootout moment? I don't know. No, really, I don't know. He could have.
I did find this funny. Like, this is actually, we're jumping around here, but like they did note in the broadcast that Roman Berkey has never stopped the PK.
So there you go. He certainly never had that moment then.
Right. So it does ask the question, are PKs the Roman kryptonite? Is that like
for both of them? Just both Romans really struggle with this.
It's they're like the Gauls or the barbarians to the Rome.
You would think that Hildebrandt would give him some pointers. Like if there's one area, then he might be able to help him out, but it did not help him out in this one.
Roman, what you need to do is just say no. Can you do that for me? Just say no.
Oh, let's get into this one. FC Cincinnati going up against St. Louis City. You'll remember last year these teams faced. I'm sure they hammered it to death in the pregame and during the game, but it was a tough one. It was the only true blemish in the middle of FC Cincinnati's resume, a 5-1. I think I got that wrong last episode. 5-1 loss to St. Louis. The tornado game, which I think is the correct way to think about it. Bradley Carnell, their manager, referred to it as the tornado game in the days leading up to this one. Pat Noonan put out a lineup that I think is interesting because of how much rotation was happening and then how much rotation maybe wasn't happening. In goal for this one was Roman Celentano, your back line from left to right, Ian Murphy, Matt Miazga, Nick Hagland, Luca Orishano on the left side, and Brett Halsey out there on the right, Buko Woboto Acosta, the midfield trio, Dado Valenzuela, and Yuya Kubo up top. I go to you, Jonah. The lineup came out. What were you looking at first?
Oh, I mean, I don't want to say I'm conductor of the Dado train, Dado, but I'm riding first class on it one way or another. So I'm just excited that there's other players who could be playing instead of him. Yeah. It's not like we have to start Tommy McCabe. No, this is a different team. And I feel like he's already settled in quite nicely. He needs that goal. He's close to getting that goal. He's getting himself into positions to almost get a goal, but he makes himself useful even if he doesn't have to be shooting on goal. He's dropping back If Lucho wants to play up on the wing, he's there. So basically, that's my long way of saying I love seeing Dado out there. I just like hyping up a player personally and him like not letting you down. Like a young Brett Halsey. But he's coming back, Chief. Halsey's coming back. You're high, then you're low. Hey, now he might just be consistent. He might just be okay, and that's good too. But that's what I'm most excited about. If Dado to be a regular contributor to FCC, gets my juices flowing beyond the regular stuff.
I was interested to see if they were going to play Kelsey to start this game. Mm-hmm. And then I forget where we were talking about it, but the idea came up that Kelsey might not be double 90 match fit right now, or even double 60 match fit. He's been training for months since the Ukraine season was wrapping up as he came over here. Yeah. It's not like he was getting a lot of minutes in games and going in games. It's not like he was getting any minutes over there. So maybe there's going to be some rounding into form where he's going to need to get his legs up a little bit. And so he goes on Wednesday for about, I want to say like 60 minutes, 65 minutes, I think. Yeah. And yeah, maybe the plan always was, or it seems like the plan always was, he goes on Wednesday and then maybe doesn't start the second game, comes in relief in this game. And we're not quite to the point yet where he could go back to back on a midweek plus a weekend tilt. Given that, if you're not going to play Kelsey, I love the combo of Kubo and Valenzuela. What's interesting about this combo, and Jonah kind of alluded to it, is that you're playing between Lucho, Kubo, and Dado. You're playing three guys who all have the ability to play either striker or attacking mid. And so it creates a situation where all three players can drop back to play defense in the midfield. All three players can play advanced, and they can sort of rotate who is moving into an advanced position at any given time. And as you watch this game progress, this gave St. Louis fits trying to figure out where each one of these players was going to be at any given time. The downside is you give up a lot of height and a lot of ability to play long with this combination, which when this game starts, St. Louis is pressing relentlessly, and it's successful for the first 10 to 15 minutes until positionally FC Cincinnati sort of works out where they need to go to break the press. But without that Kelsey long ball option, it was kind of dicey for the first 10, 20 minutes of this game. But the sheer talent up top won out very quickly, I think, because these are three players who are very, very good and in very good form right now.
Yeah, I think agree with all of that, by the way. I think it was interesting to see Hagelin get the start, not Keller. I know there had been some question as to who was higher on the depth chart. I think Hagelin being there is notable. I really feel like, and they did eventually get him in there, but if Keller was higher on the depth chart, he would have been starting this one as the revenge game with St. Louis.
I think if Yedlin's healthy, he might start. But with Halsey in front of Hagelin, you'd like the idea of having somebody that's a little more veteran in front of Brett Halsey right there.
That's a good point. And then Halsey getting the start here, which kind of felt inevitable given how everything else shook out. But you could easily imagine a world where Sergio Santos starts up top and Yuya Kubo's the right back if, say, Noonan was allergic to playing Halsey when he didn't have to. But yeah, he got I think it was only his third career start for the first team. Yeah, Jonah, like you mentioned it, but I'll emphasize it here. I think Halsey was pretty good in this one, and I think he's a good addition to that attacking trio, and then include Orshano on the other side. Like, he can kind of ball with these guys. He hung with them a little bit.
Yeah, I think the only problem with Halsey is that he's not loved as much as Lucho loves Oriano. So if Halsey does something that he doesn't like, he's going to show him right away. But he's not afraid to, everyone's pretty deferential to Lucho. Halsey's not afraid to be like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to take on a guy. And it's hit or miss. But for the most part, I don't remember any defensive issues. I'm mostly thinking about him going forward the same way I think about Luka. I don't think about defense unless something horrible happens. Otherwise, I'm thinking like, how can they get involved in the offense? Yeah, he's pretty confident for a guy who, as Chief might point out, hasn't done a total lot for the team. But, he looks like someone who you don't mind being in. You don't want him to be your everyday right back probably yet. But yeah, he's not afraid to try things. And that's 90% of what we ask for as fans, someone who doesn't look like they don't belong out there. So, for the most part, this game, some of those other games where we're like, who is this guy I think he is? Because he's really not doing much. For the most part, he, afforded himself pretty well. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a decent amount more of Brett Halsey, especially, I don't know. Do we know what Yedlin's timetable is coming back?
It's shifting. Like, it just seems like it's indefinite at this point, where he's going to be day to day right until he's not. But the fact that he hasn't returned to training yet is a sign that I think he's probably out for at least another week or two.
I don't know where FOTMob is drawing this information, but
they've said early June in FOTMob for a while. So with Halsey, first and foremost with Halsey, what you're looking for with him is his defense, because that position you absolutely need to be able to track back and defend, especially with Haglund behind him, where Haglund, I think, is the clear choice over Keller. But Haglund he's lost a step at this point in his career. And Haglund is always good for at least 2 or 3 moments a match where it just looks awkward. It usually works out, but you get your heart up in your throat a little bit. And they had a tough assignment in this match, drawing João Klaus and Celia Pompeu. That's the best attacking pairing that St. Louis has. And they're a decent squad when it comes to scoring and putting pressure. And for the most part, I thought Haglund and Halsey handled him. Klaus was pretty much a non-factor in this game. Between Haglund and Miazga, they kept him from really having any threatening movements. And Pompeo, he was completely shut down that side of the field, down that left-hand side for them. So I thought Halsey played well. I agree with Jonah's thing, where you can tell when Lucho had just started to trust Yedlin a little more in terms of moving the ball down the right-hand side versus staying on the left-hand side with Orishano, basically. Because like last year, we were an incredibly left-handed team. We just played down the Barreal side more than not. Yedlin was just starting to earn that trust. And you know what? In this game, there were a couple big switches of play back to Halsey where he acquitted himself very well on a couple of those big switches where he got the ball wide open, dangerous position. I think he had one play in where he hit Kubo with just a laser beam that Kubo couldn't control in the first half and put over the bar. But I've been accused of being a Halsey hater. I thought Halsey played very, very well in this game. The entire lineup played well. This was, I think, the most complete performance that the team has had this year. I think they dominated whistle to whistle. I think Roman's joke at the end of the game that they got nothing on us, so we had to spot him a goal. I think that's dead on. I think the possession numbers were close to 65% in the first half for FC Cincinnati. They were threatening. They were moving the ball at will. St. Louis, they were, it was like watching them play a USL team where St. Louis, anytime they looked threatening, they got the ball poked away from them, or there was a bad touch from St. Louis. They just didn't look like they were on the same level as the FC was last night.
Yeah, which I think leads us nicely to the first goal, Lucho's penalty. And I don't know, I think it's a pretty clear-cut penalty. The guy has his arm around him and is holding him back. I don't know, Jonah, is there anything to that for you that was questionable? Because of course, lots of people online were chirping, but
I feel like watching it live, I'm like, oh yeah. And on every replay, I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not quite, but you're like, okay, I could see why someone's like, I mean, they reviewed it, they called it, and he was trying to stop him. Lucho was getting by him.
Right.
And whether or not it was like a blatant foul, he was trying to slow him down. He impeded him. And Lucho was like, all right, you got to make the call because I'm stopping. So I think, we got it this time. And, we had a penalty. We were due. Yeah. First penalty of the year, which is, I was surprised. And I was like, oh, I guess that's true. And so, yeah, we were due for it. And I was loving the ref at that point. But yeah, I'm glad those judgment ones like that, those are hard to overturn. It's not like a handball kind of situation. So I'm glad. And the formerly maligned Lucho for his PKs is now just like the most reliable penalty taker.
Machine.
He finally got that. I was like, he just needs a few more and he has that ratio up with the best of them. And as long as he keeps making them, the ratio gets better and better. So yeah, I'm actually confident now. I know it's the first of the year, but I got to the point last year too. I'm like, he's just going to make these whichever side, whichever way he wants to do it, whether he's going to tap it or blast it. He just like knows the perfect recipe for him now. So it's a beautiful thing.
I always use as a shorthand when it comes to penalties like this, how much the other team bitches at the call. And after this, it was because in real time, it kind of looks like a pen. When they showed the replay, I'm like, he looks like he goes down pretty soft on this. But it was telling that there wasn't a single player on St. Louis that was protesting the call. Nobody mobbed the ref. How can you call this? The guy who got just sort of turned around and walked away. Like they knew. And if their own players aren't going to complain about the call, you're an idiot if you're the one that's going to be chirping from behind a television set or, from deep up in the Chiefs seats.
It was honestly a dereliction of duty to not do that as the guy who committed the foul, to like wave your finger and be like, no. Even if it's like, I think every bit helps, especially if they're going to try to you got to look incredulous, as you would say. And yeah, it was pretty telling that he was just like, oh yeah.
Yeah, they got me.
It's like, you got every trick in the book. Like if that's Matt Miazga, you think he's just like, yeah, I grabbed him.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, he's freaking the fuck out, which might hurt his case, honestly, but it was rather
It's like
telling.
that shitty commercial that used to air during the NCAA tournament where the kid admits to his coach, the ball was out on me, coach. The ref got it wrong. Like, don't be that guy. That guy sucks.
It's a championship game.
What are you doing?
Come on.
He got his ass beat in the locker room. Confident.
I am so happy that we are past the Lucho might be bad at penalties phase of watching these things because, I don't know. It's nice. It's nice to feel like we have one that's automatic. It's unfortunate that.
Do you think that the reason why he's so good at them is because he stopped practicing corner kicks?
And free kicks in general, yeah. I can go along with that. Also, it's because of Evan in training.
Clearly,
of course.
Yeah, the PK whisperer. If you can beat Evan is just a wall on PKs. And if you can beat him, man, the game just feels like it's happening at 2 miles an hour.
I had to look this up. There are 7 teams remaining that have yet to have a penalty called for them. Seattle has had 5. So look at that.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah, and they're struggling right now. So clearly MLS is desperate to help Seattle out. Crew, just because have also not been awarded a penalty. So there you go. But yeah, I mean, after this, like, it really didn't feel like St. Louis had an opportunity. Like, they had an opportunity, I think, in like the first 2 or 3 minutes. They had a good like breakaway or whatever that Miazga was able to snuff out pretty quickly. It led to a shot that hit the side netting. But other than that, it was just all FCC through the end of the half, and. It was all FCC, and it was Orishano, it was Buka, it was the midfield just dominating. Wobodo played very, very well. Like, Wobodo looks fully back finally from whatever. I'm ready to declare it was probably an injury. I have nothing to back that up other than the fact that he looked terrible for about 3 weeks following his timeout, and it appears he's back to completely full. Pavel Buka, I thought this was one of his better games too. Yep. A lot of really good play, a lot of really good passes, a lot of good like quick, intricate passing work from Buka with like one touch and go to spring people. And Orishano being dribbly boy. Like, there was some
There was some elite level dribbly boyness from Orishano in this match.
It's honestly crazy he didn't get a goal in this game, especially in the second half. But like, there were so many times I'm like, I could just pass that in the corner. Oh no, damn, or a huge save by Berkey. But yeah, he's due for like a brace or something, because you could see he's getting frustrated because he's getting so close to getting the goal. But I believe.
Well, it didn't take long into the second half to get another goal. And it was everybody's favorite consumer of Japanese alcohol, Yuya Kubo.
Just him, not his wife, though. Not anymore.
Not anymore. Apparently, did you see this? He forgot to do the celebration the last time he scored, so it was a little overdue.
Yeah, the couch in the Kubo house is getting a workout now.
There was a headline.
In
the Daily Mail. We kind of stepped on already. Not a virgin. Kubo informs TQL crowd of his bedroom antics with pregnant ball celebration. So telling everybody, hey, this guy's had sex. It's a fact.
I appreciate the celebration for it being his third kid. You could see
whatever.
You can see why after maybe the first, maybe the second, you don't try that hard.
The entire village just started like, congrats on the sex chant.
Yeah. You had sex. Well, let's set up the goal first, and then I have some comments about what happened right after the goal.
Oh, sure. Yes, because there were some things to be said.
Some antics.
So Orishano takes the ball basically, as I punch the mic, to the end line here. Crosses it back into the box. It is headed away where it finds who is that? Dado? Who finds Lucho, who just slots in a perfect through ball to Kubo. And Kubo, this is how you know Kubo is actually a striker, doesn't touch the ball.
Yeah, this was so cool.
He doesn't touch the ball, lets the perfectly weighted pass do all of the work, and he picks his shot and drills the top of the goal inside, of course, the top netting there. It was an incredible rocket. It does kind of make me realize what he's going for every time he skies the ball, because he's known to kick a field goal every so often.
The turn that Kubo pulls on this pass is sweet.
Yeah.
It's a perfect ball from Lucho. Kubo knows exactly where he is on the field. He is a step onside. He knows it. He knows he's all alone. And instead of taking the touch and then having to take another touch to set himself up for the strike, he does almost a reverse pivot to put himself in perfect shooting position and just hits a laser blast into the top of the goal. And do you think he went to school a little bit, or was made fun of in the video room for a couple of those shots he's had recently that didn't get over the keeper?
Right. It finally got it underneath one. It was Halsey, by the way, who brings the ball down and finds Lucho. Yeah.
That's right.
And the entire movement is set up by a really nice touch from Pavel Buka, too, that lays it off for Orishano, that sets the entire motion up.
I feel like Pavel is like the hockey assist guy. It's like you go back a few steps from like a goal, and he's like at the center of that, which is obviously his position. That makes sense. But, he's involved in a lot, even if you don't see him in the highlight of the goal. He's like just before the goal, he was an integral part. But Kubo, yeah, I feel like this is 4 goals. A record for him. But if he's going to get regular playing time at an advanced position, I feel like 10 goals isn't impossible. Obviously, Kelsey's going to start taking away a lot of that time too. But he's been there or close to there for so many of these games he didn't score in. It's like 3 goals is kind of unlucky. He should have... If he had blasted them like this for a few other ones, we'd be talking about at least 5 goals by now. There's been ones at the back post he's just barely missed, but it seems like the more he's getting these opportunities, he's getting better throughout the year. It's not like a novelty as much. They're like, hey, everyone's excited. Kubo's playing up top. Like now it's like real. Like this is, it's almost like we're finally cashing in on the promise of like 4 years ago or whatever. So for his sake, I hope it keeps going. And it's a beautiful thing to see. Yeah, it felt like that Landon Donovan World Cup goal where he gets it on the side and just fucking roofs it. And they're like, all right, you're saving everything on the ground. Berkey's, except for the Santos back post goal. But he's like swarming everything. And if that's on the ground, it's getting saved. So it was the perfect shot at the perfect time. Can I ask you guys, did the team think he was offside? Because it was one of the most muted celebrations from his teammates to the point where I'm like, oh, it's not a goal. And it like VAR'd me kind of where I'm like afraid to celebrate. The lights are flashing. No one's running up to him.
Yeah, they didn't go to the celebration spot. The celebration spot is down by the Bailey in the corner closest to the Tunnel Club, the rich seats section. Yeah. That's where they always go to celebrate. In this one, like, the celebration happened in the middle of the field. I think they were all waiting to see if he was off. And the thing was, he was very clearly onside. It wasn't even close when you went back and watched it. But everyone on St. Louis threw their hand up in the air. So I think they may have actually convinced us that there was a problem here.
Yeah.
I went back and watched the highlight here. Nobody reacts, but Dado puts his arms up, almost gets him over his shoulder, puts him right back down.
Yeah. And I was like, maybe they hate Kubo. Like he's actually like, it felt like Boop scored a goal. I was like, this is fucking Kubo, like based on nothing, the nicest man in the world. Like we put all this on him. So I hope he gets another moment to celebrate at home.
If there was one person on the team everybody would hate, it would probably be Kubo, right? Just on like, if you knew nothing about this team, he's got kind of a hard-o thing going on right now. He'll play any position. I'll go do anything. I'll learn any position. Everybody hates that guy at the office where it's like, I'll volunteer. And it's like, you're making the rest of us look bad. I can only play one position and you're willing to learn 3 new ones in a year just because.
Sean Astin is
There is something to be said for like everybody likes the third string left back, right? Because he's not coming for anybody's job.
Kubo's coming for everybody's job. He's Mr. Steal Your Girl, man.
Kubo could take your starting job tomorrow.
Everybody but Lucho. And that's why Lucho seems to really enjoy him. He's like, this guy doesn't talk back. This guy's not giving me any shit ever. So I love that Lucho and Kubo have a thing. I have a quick thing.
Please.
I don't want to call him this, but could we call Kelsey Kelso? So we could have Kelso, Kubo, Lucho, and Dado. Is it too much of a stretch to add a O to his name? Because we could really be cooking with something.
Who played Kelso on That 70s Show?
That was
Ashton Kutcher.
Ashton Kutcher.
So it wasn't the guy that was problematic?
No.
I mean, he's in his own ways, but no, not Danny Masterson.
Not Danny Masterson. Okay, we're good then. We're clear then. All right.
What was his name? Finch? Fudge? No, that's Fez? That was Fez.
No, Fez was the other guy.
Yeah. What the fuck was
Mitch? No. What was his name?
Dunch.
Something like that.
His
name now is
Hyde.
His name is Inmate now, I think.
Yeah.
Did they finally get him? I mean, that was the thing.
Oh, they got him. I mean, he's going to appeal. Yeah.
Here's my question. Since, this goal caused me to have debate, existential thoughts, and bigger roster implications. Is Yuya Kubo the locked-on starter at striker now? Because I'm kind of ready to make that call. And we're just sort of waiting for Kelsey to take the other spot.
So I don't think you're wrong.
And also, I want to know for the record, I'm okay with this.
Okay.
I like this.
So I think in theory, it's still Boop's job.
He's never playing another minute of soccer for this team again.
I'd agree with you, but on paper, you'd like to think Bupenza and Kelsey would be a pretty formidable attacking duo. But granted, we understand there's all sorts of fun issues there. But I was thinking about this too. Is our midfield feels bare after the starters because the depth are now our strikers. Like Dado and Kubo are the midfield depth with Pinto as what would then be the sixth string midfielder if you consider our midfield being three players. Both of them are striker. They can't both be striker going forward. So Dado would have to come off for Kelsey. That feels easy, but then they like to start Kelsey and Dado together.
Is there a reality where they sell Boop and bring in another midfielder and Buka goes to the bench?
I think.
And they leave Kubo up top? I don't know. So yeah, what Jonah was saying about Kubo, he should probably have like 2 or 3 more goals right now. It feels repeatable. Like there's nothing about what Kubo is doing right now that feels fluky. He finds himself in dangerous positions a ton. He's super flexible in terms of where he goes on the field and what he can do. He's a striker that you can put up there, and then you don't have to sub him off late if you don't want to, because he's the opposite of a defensive liability. He's actually very good defending. I don't know. They've got a dilemma in terms of how they're going to deploy this roster going forward once DeAndre Edlin gets healthy.
I don't know. Jonah, what do you think? Did you bring in, let's assume Bupenza is sellable, right? Do you try to replace it with a DP striker, or do you let it ride and go for midfield?
I mean, maybe it'll answer itself, 3 games from now, but like, remember when we thought Kubo was a must start? He's been ice cold. I don't think that'll be happening. I think he'll at least we're kind of near the baseline, and I think there could be more goals. Buka, I feel like, is just getting more and more comfortable with
I like
Lucho. Yeah, I know you're not like, we got to bench Buka. But so that feels like one who's rock solid. I think Dado's good. He's coming in as a sub, so that's okay. And it's not like he's just happy for any minutes. You're not worried about like, we can't upset Dado, the homegrown. So I don't see any major issues. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like right now it's all good problems.
Yeah.
Good problems to have. So I'm not concerned. I even I smiled when Santos came in at the end, and I didn't really think he was going to do anything. And then he gets the goal. But like, you're like, okay, yeah. I will say remember Corey Baird's on the team.
Yeah.
Kubo is like, he had that goal and assist game, and we're like, oh, all right, Baird's here. But now it's like, I can't see him taking Kubo's spot unless Kubo like falls off a cliff. So I feel like that's his now. Like, we don't need to wait for Baird to score more goals. Kubo's scoring goals now, and he knows exactly where Lucho wants him to be when he's going forward, and he goes to those spots. And as we saw last night, it was like it paid off in the most perfect way. And I don't think Baird's in that spot. I mean, he tries to, but I'm like, why am I talking about Baird? He's like not even a blip on the radar now. But
no, it's like I'm not interested in watching Corey Baird and Kevin Kelsey play together. I'm very interested in watching Yu Kubo and Kevin Kelsey play together. Like, a lot interested in what that looks like. I think that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It sounded erotic even.
Right?
Very
Sorry, Kelso, Kubo and Kelso.
Right. Just so it's always confusing.
And playing with Buka, the strongest man on the team. Go ahead.
Of course.
It's been a while.
This is what I predict will happen. I think they go DP for DP. They sub out Bupenza for another striker. I think with the rule changes that are soon to be implemented, FC Cincinnati will be able to use 2 more U22 spots. And if they are intent on winning MLS Cup this year, I think they spend both of those spots on midfielders. I think they feel pretty confident in their outside back depth. Center back depth can't get deeper realistically. You're locked in at goal, whatever happens there. I think you need 2 youngsters to push the midfield. And, you're good. Like a DP striker with Kelsey is awesome. You've got Kubo pushing. You'd have Baird and Santos ready to push as well. And then in midfield, you'd have Kubo and Valenzuela pushing the starters. But then, yeah, you throw in like a youngster or two, and we got something. Now this team is insanely deep, because I was thinking about this too. Brett Halsey is our third choice right back and is like fine. And that's incredible from where this team was even just last year. Our third choice right back was like Isaiah Foster or something. I don't know who it would have been. So might have been Nick Haglund. Like, so this is great to see right now.
Yeah. All cylinders. Like, they brought in a U22 striker and he looks like a must start. And that's a position on the team, on the roster of an MLS team, where we preach all the time, don't get too excited. And then you've got like Tom Bogert saying, I am so excited for Kevin Kelsey because he looks so good. He looked really good. They bring him in this game at around the 65th minute, and he looks really good again. Like, you know, he's an aerial threat, just being enormous, but he plays the ball exceptionally well with his feet, turns around, gets a snapshot off, and almost beats Berkey. Like,
yes,
he looks great.
I think he took down 3 balls off his chest perfectly and like to another player. I was like, no one's been doing that in a while. And like his chest height is like the height of most of the other guys. I don't know how they pronounce his name. Adeniran, the other striker for St. Louis. He was a guy who's like, oh, this guy is fucking huge, and was like scary, but he kept like dribbling it out of bounds. And he had like one time he got to close to the goal and snapped it like on the outside of the post. But beyond that, it was like, yeah, he's got the size, but he's not taking balls down like Kelsey.
He looks terrifying.
Oh yeah.
The rest of it just doesn't follow.
Yeah,
right.
You get why he's probably going to get chances for the rest of his life. You're like, I mean, look at this guy. He's fucking he looks like Kevin Kelsey.
We can be the one that unlocks him. We do have to talk about this one. Thankfully, the night went such a way that this is an amusing footnote. I had the same moment too when I was going back looking at the FOTMob player ratings. I saw Matt Miazga 4.9. That seems right.
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah. So Matt Miazga passes back to Roman Celentano. I guess in theory, not really. He had just received a pass from Roman.
It's Murphy passes back to Roman.
Right.
Murphy passes back to Roman. Roman passes to Miazga. And then Miazga, he puts a little English on it and sends it right back to Roman, who is not at all aware that Miazga's going to pass it back to him in that moment.
I think it's not even so much that he's not aware that he's passing it back. He puts it on like the other side of the goal from where Roman is. Like, I think a direct pass back, sure, would have like maybe surprised Roman a little bit there. It's not that close to him. No. It's a very weird sequence. And yeah, I mean, huge maturity, I think, in this one, seeing Roman immediately go like, no big deal. No big deal. Like, chill out, we got this. And Miazga, I thought, was genuinely going to come up with clumps of hair from
his head. He grabbed his head and does like the ultimate surrender cobra right in the middle of the field. I think the problem is if you both will recall, and you will indulge me in returning back to a simpler time of 2023, happy times for the FC, long winning streak, supporter shield winning year. Maybe you guys both remember it. Do you guys remember this year, 2023?
A little bit.
Vaguely.
A little bit. In 2023, St. Louis FC had just some black magic, dark side of the force shit going on, where teams would inexplicably do tremendously stupid shit that would gift them goals out of nowhere.
But yeah, something is afoot.
Something's afoot. Something is amiss.
Some dark matter.
Probably worth mentioning once again that their sporting director had been jailed for 100 days for match fixing at a previous stint in his
Who
life.
amongst us?
I mean, he claims he's innocent. He bizarrely claims that him being imprisoned was proof of him being innocent. I still can't figure that one out.
I see that all the time, actually.
Vaguely Trumpian. Like, it's actually even more innocent. I want to say, it was brutally deflating for several minutes. Like I felt dark.
Yeah.
Like it sucked because we were, as Chief has pointed out, just dominating them. It wasn't like we were about to score at every moment, but it was like, oh, we're finally going to, you had the irrational thought of we're finally going to win a game by 2 goals. It was like they were not sniffing the goal at all. And we were just basically having our way with them. And the next, Kelsey's coming. Everything is inevitable. Like we're getting another goal and we're finally going to break out. This is going to be the game where we score 1 million goals. And when that happened, I'm like, are we going to I was like, oh, I mean, you can't win every game. Are we going to tie this game because of this? And like obviously it sparked them for the next 10 minutes. They were juiced off of that horrible mistake. And like, so I'm playing it off now in retrospect. And like, it's just a funny side note. But at the time, yes, it was devastating.
Yeah, it was
and
awful.
It was like, I'd never seen anything like that in person. And it was just so unnecessary too, because Ian Murphy went out wide and was right there. And it wasn't like he was under this horrible amount of pressure. So It was just like, wow, this unforced error is going to cost us this game where St. Louis was doing nothing. And I'm so relieved that we didn't have to totally clench our cheeks for the entirety of the rest of the game.
Yeah.
But it was rough.
I'm still going to blame the curse.
I think it's fair. It
was the only way they could score for sure.
And Miazga goes on, I think, outside of Berkey, to be the man of the match for St. Louis, because nothing of note that I can remember truly happens after that, outside of course, the best striker on the team, Sergio Santos, getting his goal in this one, 3-1. It is a perfect square ball from Lucho off of a pass from Orishano. And it was pointed out, I think it was by Carter Chapley, the XG on Santos's shot is actually higher than the penalty that Lucho took earlier in the game. Like, it doesn't get a better, more clear chance than this.
Although you say that, but if you were to like stop the footage right before Santos taps in, and then also have an image of Lucho taking the PK, and say, which of these two do you think is more likely to miss? I bet Santos every single time.
Oh, thank God he still has the knack. Yeah.
The tap-in merchant, Sergio Santos.
So good. It was
good
perfect
for him. You know what? The hell with it. This is more proof Pat Brennan will use to say, look, he scored some big goals for this team down the stretch while Aaron Bupenza was out.
Well, the chips were
the
down.
DP striker was hurt, and you got goal contributions from Kubo, Sergio Santos. And yeah, in this game, you know what? That goal is the difference between, clenched asshole for the entire end of the game plus stoppage time. And I'm going to sit back and enjoy the rest of my evening as they see this one out. That you can put a price on that, and apparently it's $800,000.
Worth every penny.
Jonah, I have a bone to pick with Chiefs take on this, at least on Twitter, who was calling for a yellow card. Thoughts on Kevin Kelsey taking the ball and punting it off of the Bailey scoreboard?
I didn't even notice it live. I think I was like picking up my son and holding him sideways or something.
I saw the ball hit the goddamn scoreboard, and I thought there was certainly that had to have been a St. Louis player in frustration doing that.
He's he's like the unfrozen caveman lawyer. He's like, this new league confuses me. I don't know its rules and intricacies. So I didn't know I can blast the ball. But good for him. He's excited. He's representing for the Crest. He's wearing a XXL jersey. He's up to it. He's a feisty young man. So I do respect it. I did get a
hell of a kick.
Yeah. What time? Let me see I got to get my time frame right with that goal.
What
80th minute.
Did he use his right foot or his left foot to do that? Many people are asking.
He uses his... Oh, it looks like his left, but the highlight cuts out right before he connects.
Interesting.
The snapshot was left, right? I'm picturing...
Was it?
A quick turn. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever. Who cares? He's good. He uses his head.
He is a preferred left-footed according to Font Mob. So
Never had a doubt. Never had a doubt.
No.
I like to think maybe, if we were really looking to drum up, do some classic muckraking, Kevin Kelsey frustrated the ball didn't go to him. Trouble in paradise? I don't have that take. The
Just
most interesting thing.
Hell of a kick.
That's true. We got to get Kelsey into goalie wars at the All-Star game. I don't know if they're going to do that, and I don't know if we get to pick who we send as a representative, but if he can punt the ball that hard, he's going to make some people duck out of the way.
6'4" with a leg like that. You don't think like the Adelaide Crows or like one of those teams in Aussie rules isn't like, well,
we can work with this.
We can work with this.
The most interesting thing to see or to happen in my mind for the rest of the game is in the 86th or 89th minute when Malik Pinto subbed into the game. Or no, I should say Lucho Costa subbed out of the game.
Yeah.
And 3 minutes later, Malik Pinto subbed into the game. Our first brush with the new rule of if a player takes too long, it feels a little undefined. Maybe that it does define it somewhere in the rule book.
I thought it was 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds to get off the pitch.
I'm sure they're starting a stopwatch and holding themselves true. If the player takes too long to get off of the field, the oncoming substitute must wait 2 minutes, and then after that 2 minutes, wait for a break in the action in order.
10-second substitute shot clock. But you have to exit the playing field within 10 seconds, and you have to go to wherever the nearest area out is. So you're no longer allowed to take the slow walk back to your bench, put the hands over the head and applaud. Thank you, everybody, as you're coming out, get your curtain call. Wherever the closest area is, you're required to jog, it sounds like, and hustle up and get off the field.
I felt like there was some confusion about this. I thought they put his number up first, but then was that part of the double sub or was that a different one? Was he subbed out solo? When
it was a double sub. Kip Keller came in for Ian Murphy then.
Like they put up his number first, but Keller went off first, or do they have to just go at the same time? Or is it when the board comes up? Because that's what I thought happened. Then he went off and then it was Lucho's turn. Maybe they both have to, on the double sub, do they just have to both go off at the same time? But either way, hopefully that's a lesson learned for a game where like it's because then for a while like we're just playing a man down and they're just throwing everything forward and I'm like, can we not give one up here?
Hard not to think of like also this weekend Sergio Ramos subbed out for Sevilla and he had like a really nice long walk out because it was his last time appearing for the club. Or maybe it wasn't Ramos, it was another player.
It was Thiago Silva for Chelsea too.
It was, yeah, and
Jesus Navas, Jesus, the one who tucks his shirt in. Didn't he play for Sevilla for a long time? Remember he used to play for Man City. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, that's him. That's who did it. And like imagine if like in this great wonderful moment, you're saying goodbye to a legend, and then your team has to play down a man for 4 minutes and loses the game or something.
It felt absurdly long. Like I get the spirit of the rule, but I feel like 1 minute, they're never, unless something happened, they're not taking more than a minute to get off the field. So the minute feels like a proper punishment. Yeah. A minute and then add a break. But any more than that feels like it's just like, that's the part where it's like 25 years to life for your whatever this crime is as a deterrent. But like that's not actually, the proper amount of punishment for the crime. But yeah, let's hope it doesn't. If it's going to affect any team at the end of the game, it's going to be us, and it's going to be because of Lucho. So let's hope that it doesn't happen again, because like you can definitely foresee that happening again in the future, and because he's going to push it to the limit, whatever the limit is, like 9.8 seconds. Like he's going to.
Yeah.
But that was interesting.
I don't understand what this rule is trying to combat. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, of all the different ways that time wasting occurs on a soccer field, allowing the home crowd to applaud a person coming out, what are we fighting here? Like there are so many other ways that you can speed a game up without resorting to, hey, man, you got to jog off the field. I don't care how many goddamn goals you've scored or how much the crowd loves you. You got to get the hell off the field.
I was reminded of a moment a couple of years ago in a Chelsea game where Sarri tried to sub out, I think it was the goalkeeper at the time, who just refused to get out of the game. And I feel like that's the play. Like if Lucho's taking too long and like he gets the sense that the team's going to be penalized, don't leave the field.
Yeah.
You just refuse to leave. You deal the sub later. Like it's not working. We'll try again later.
God damn it. I need my applause.
Just add to the time. I feel like they're adding so much time anyways. I'm like, how much time do you think it is? And then we add 2 minutes to whatever time it was. Like, all right, it's this plus some magical 2 minutes that we don't know where it came from, but didn't matter. This time.
FC Cincinnati wins 3-1, and for 10 minutes was top of the Supporter Shield standings.
And for the first time, winning by more than 1 goal. It is possible. It is possible.
Right.
I did tweet from the Post account. It is literally impossible for this team to win by more than 1 goal after that Miazga goal went in.
And Sergio Santos said, no, sir. Not on my watch.
Never been happier to be wrong.
Or as everyone's calling him, Santo, because he wants to end it in O like everybody else. Sergio Santo.
Buko.
Let's keep it. I'm sure we can do it for all of them.
Moto.
That's so true.
Miazgo.
Orishano. Brett Halsey, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, Lynn.
Fucking up my swag.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it's just
Celentano.
O. Murphy. It's O. Murphy instead of Murphy-O.
O. Murphy.
He somehow gets more
Murphy.
Irish as opposed to his name working.
Ian Murphy-O here.
Watching, I assume everybody else, I certainly did this, flipped over to the DC game. If you were able to, I apologize if you were not at the stadium.
Some of us were actually at the stadium.
I don't understand the concept.
Singing Mr. Brightside like real fans.
I caught the goal at home of the Miami game, so it was possible to do both.
Yeah. Absurd goal. That was so annoying. Must be nice to bring on Ecuador's starting striker, I think, national team striker off the bench for Miami. Well done to them.
I sort by points per game. I don't know about you guys. As soon as I get on that standings, I do that quick sort, and I'm like, nope. We're first, actually.
Nope, they're ahead of us on the table. I want this team hungry and focused. You got to earn it. It's too early to be table watching.
Do we buy the argument that MLS purposely gave Miami 1 extra game to increase the chances that they would be near or at the top of the table?
100% yes.
Oh, I didn't know there was another side of the argument. Yeah, it was just established as fact.
Right, this is like some CNN shit where it's like, you know what? Not every debate needs to have the other side presented when it's so clearly the case.
I was going to say, I think I did this right. June 22nd, we finally get level on games. And unless somebody makes a deep run in Leagues Cup, we should maintain parity there. So
it's going to be hard because I've stated it's not about the Supporters Shield. This is about peaking at the right time. It's about MLS Cup. A back-to-back Supporter Shield sounds pretty nice. You don't think is 2 Supporter Shields better than 1 cup? I'll say you, Chief?
Yes.
I want to know from the take master though. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, it's stars matter. So I want the star over the badge.
3 shields. Or 1 cup.
How many shields in a row?
3 shields, 1 cup. That's the new podcast name.
It's like one of those shitty Facebook memes that your aunt posts where it's like, how many shields equals 1 cup? How many cups equals? And then the trick is that the trick is in the last row, it's actually only 1/2 of a cup as opposed to the full cup.
How many triangles are in this picture? And then I see like my mom commenting like, Mom, come on. You don't need to be answering this. Yeah.
This is how the Chinese get your phone number.
They're just looking for the ones that'll fall for a scam. Oh, this one said 3 triangles. We can scam the hell out of this one.
See, only people that can see 10 triangles are eligible to join this investment opportunity.
Kevin, it looked to me like you were saying 2 shields is better than 1 cup. Is that where are you standing on that? You and Wilfred Nazi, are you standing on that?
I will stand on that because I will point out it was May 17th of 2023 where FC Cincinnati took first place in the standings and did not relinquish it. And I had this thought. The Premier League the last couple of years has been relatively boring. This has been the Manchester City show, the behemoth, the giant that steamrolls what many people have tried to claim is the best, most, interesting soccer league in the world. Manchester City has turned it into the Bundesliga or Ligue 1. And I think I'm more than happy to jinx everything. I think MLS is starting to turn that way, that Chris Albright and the behemoth that he has built with FC Cincinnati, it's just not interesting for anybody else that this is a team.
I don't like this conversation.
Goes to the top.
I don't like this. I don't like where we're going with this. There's not enough wood nearby for me to knock on for this conversation right now.
I'm just seeing a lot of parallels.
Sir, I need you to remember that you're from Cincinnati. We don't think this way.
I'm looking at Supporters Shield. DC United won it back-to-back. LA Galaxy has gone back-to-back. They're the last team to do it, and that was in 2011. So
it's a very different league.
No one's won 3, so maybe the third one will be the one that convinces Chief, because no one's done it before.
Although there is sort of this inverse thing too, where the more you win Supporters Shield in a row without winning MLS Cup, the more obvious it is that you haven't won MLS Cup.
Yeah, what if it's Supporter Shield last year, Supporter Shield and Leagues Cup this year, and let's say Open Cup and Supporter Shield next year? At what point?
That's a lot of that. I lost you halfway through that.
Leagues Cup
win everything but MLS Cup every year.
I mean, Leagues Cup would be a lot of fun to win, actually. I understand that would piss like the hardos off.
I planned my vacation specifically for Leagues Cup, so they're going to do great because I won't be around for it.
Because I'm opted out already. They're going to win.
Yeah. I was like, they know what's going on. Chief, who you got? Nuggets or Timberwolves. This is a classic KLR where I just bring up another sport randomly real quick. Sorry. Sports.
I was ready to be with the Nuggets just because I really enjoy the Jokic hates his job memes and videos online. Those make me very happy. But on the other hand, fuck them. Let's go with the Wolves. Ant-Man.
Kevin, this is for you. I'll bring it back real quick before we totally pivot. Who's your FC, if you had to guess, the Jokic of FCC, the player who's the best at their job, who cares the least about it? It could be none of them, but we're just going to make a guess about one just for the humor of it. I think Lucho, we know Lucho loves playing.
He tries hard. Is it Buka? Is it?
He'd rather be in the weight room than playing. Yeah. It's just a distraction from.
He's a power lifter. He's a power lifter stuck in a soccer player's body.
If Locadia was good, he's the most obvious choice. He doesn't give a fuck about soccer, but he just can't help it. He's too good, but it's like it kind of shows.
I'm gonna go with Aaron
Bupenza.
Yeah, he's the logical one. He's here for the club.
He hates playing soccer. He'd rather just be in the club.
But that's where the money's from. That's where the women come from. So that's.
He'd rather be in the ring. Am I right?
Yeah, that's almost like too obvious the choice. Everyone else. I mean, this is a Chris Albright, Pat Noonan team, so it's going to be the expensive DP who's probably going to fit that mold because they have to kind of reach out they have a specific type and they're like, no, we got to go out and get the diva, but everybody else is like, they got to be gritty.
Ooh, the answer is Pat Noonan. Pat Noonan, I think if you gave him the choice of not being the manager, he'd take you up on it. This fucking thing, he just gets too stressed out about it. I fucking hate this.
I'm too good
he's mad he can't play still, is what it is. Like Pat Noonan wants to get out there on the field and mix it up. You can just see it, just seething that he can't sub himself in to take care of matters on his own. I did think about this the other day. There's definitely a type of player that Pat Noonan and Chris Albright go after. Number one, I mean, talented, obviously, but they want guys who they like the game. They want to play soccer. They're team guys that they would play. Like the old cliche, they'd play even if they weren't getting paid, they'd still be out there playing. Are Pat Noonan and Chris Albright football guys? Because that's like a football guy mentality where you hear like in the pre-draft evaluation, man, this guy eats, sleeps, and lives football. He loves football. We want to make sure the people we bring in, they love football. Like that's FC Cincinnati, just football.
Yeah, but that's why Kubo has lasted, because he's just like a robot. He's like, I will play that position. I will play that position too. So, yeah, I mean, that's except for the DP, which you gotta widen your scope a little bit.
Yep. Woboto loves football. Lucho loves football. Like they're still, they're still batting almost 1,000 on that one. The ones they haven't, like Loco really just wanted to be a DJ, so that was pre them. But like. Yeah,
Brenner was
also pre them, so you really can't like.
That's true. It really is only Bupenza.
Yeah,
and he's had some weird stuff. Maybe turning his head. Unfortunately, I was gonna say they do feel like just to take it sincere for a moment, like they genuinely value availability, which is like right along what you're talking about here. That like. You want to talk about jinxing a season? These guys are always available. Like
Jesus,
short. Hey, look, we've lost Yedlin, Bupenza, and Baird. Okay, like let's not act like there are no injuries here. Yeah. But
if you would have recorded this podcast last night, there would have been like a tragic injury on a roller coaster today with the team hall at Kings Island.
That's true. I'm just
Yedlin
saying.
Was the perfect Arias replacement. He's like, we're going to be available the same amount of games, but hopefully we're there for the game that counts.
All right. How many games did Arias play last year? All right. I can do that. And nothing
12.
More.
Yeah. Sometimes talent outweighs availability enough for
right. Well, I think I said Halsey was our third choice. Right back. I think it's our fourth choice, with Yu Kubo probably being ahead of him if everybody's available. So hey, look, if we're down to our fourth choice right wing back, we've been bitten by a bug somewhere. Okay, so I'm not going to say we're due for a jinx from these comments. Also. I don't believe in jinxes, so we're good. Is there anything else?
Believe in you. That's the problem.
We're playing for the cup. Remember, we don't care about the shield. So whatever. Just help you at the right time.
Facts. All right. Well, let's wrap this up with some Patreon questions. Let's get out of here. Okay? That sounds good. And before we head on over to part 2, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Cincy Shirts. These guys, let me tell you about these guys. Do you know about these guys? Let me tell you about these guys. Cincy Shirts has been around from the beginning. If you ask me, and nobody did, Cincy Shirts was instrumental in FC Cincinnati becoming very, very popular and eventually leading to their MLS bid, which is why I am so excited that the Post and the Postcast are able to partner with them. Look, here's the deal. If you use the promo code ThePostCincy, all one word, all caps, when purchasing something from them, you get 10% off, and we get a little bit of money back our way, huh? It also lets them know that you heard about them through our show. And even if that's not true, it makes me feel good, and it makes them feel good. So use that code. Look, they just released some new Hawaiian-style shirts. I don't know if they're actually Hawaiian-style, but some new floral prints for FCC, some button-ups. Get on this. The supplies do not last. However, they do have 3 in-store locations, including a new one over in Loveland, where they can print most of the designs for you on a shirt. The button-ups, I don't think they can do on demand, but they can print those designs on demand in a shirt on any size that you'd like. I've definitely used that service. It is awesome. So again, the promo code, ThePostCincy, all one word, all caps, knock a couple bucks off of your next order. It works on non-FCC gear too, all right? Get yourself an LA De La Cruz shirt or something like that. You're gonna look good in it. You're gonna have a good time. And you're gonna save a couple of bucks. doing this. So Cincy shirts, again, cincyshirts.com, link in the description, the code, the post Cincy, all one word, all caps. A huge thank you to Cincy Shirts for sponsoring this and many other episodes of the Postcast. All right, we are back. Part 2, the final part, Chief. Are you ready for this? We have Patreon questions.
They're hitting different after wins, man. They're hitting different after wins.
God, it's so true. And we haven't dipped into the well of Patreon questions in some time. In fact, it had been so long, Jonah was terrified of answering the backlog of questions. And
you wonder what he's afraid of. Why is he afraid of answering the people?
Well, I'll tell you what. It's this question from Scott Wilson, who asked, are there any unrealized ideas from What's This Soccer Thing that you'd still like to produce, or did it reach its final form before ending? I have to let a lot of people know what it is Scott is referring to. Because God bless you, Scott.
What is this soccer thing, Kevin?
This is a deep cut. So sort of the first iteration of the Postcast was an attempt between a buddy of mine, Jason Monahan, great friend. He came up to me with this idea. He is a sports guy. He loves American sports, baseball, basketball, football. Put it in front of him, he's good. Total soccer noob. And he knew I was a big soccer nerd. So the premise, not unlike what we discussed with a wrestling podcast at one point, was I would help teach him the game. We'd record it on a podcast and it would be fun. He'd ask like interesting questions about, the sport from an American perspective. I could try to find analogies or similarities between the sports. The thing is, as we got going, and I had this whole idea of like, we'll do like important matches from history, and we'll do, because it wasn't FCC specific, I should say. We'll do important matches from history. We'll recap some like classic moments, some big storylines, cover some famous players or characters from the world of soccer that would just sort of like help you understand the sport. Towards the middle or end of it, which I should say, if the Postcast has 12 listeners, this had maybe 1, okay, just in terms of comparison. As we got going, the folks over at Total Soccer Show created Soccer 101, which was the exact same concept, but with a much larger built-in base, and was able to pump out a lot more content a lot faster and just couldn't compete. And I don't know that they stole the idea from us. I think it's a pretty generic, simple concept. Don't get me wrong. But it was kind of a disappointment to have tried and put some effort in that direction. And we didn't get anywhere. We tried at the last second to pivot towards more FCC stuff. And it just it fell by the wayside, and it died an unfortunate death. But out of the ashes of What's This Soccer Thing came the Cincy Postcast. In comes Grayson, in comes the Chief. And so to answer your question, Scott, if you want the idealized version of What's This Soccer Thing, go listen to Total Soccer Show's Soccer 101. That's what it should have been.
I mean, the other thing too is you started a podcast with, Grayson understands the sport, but I don't know shit. So, and that's obvious every time I open my mouth.
No, this is fun. I've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed this journey. Shout out to Sarah Gorman as well, who's mentioned she was listening to the podcast back when we would just read versions of the long written articles that we did back when we were written content first. So, boy, we've gone through some evolutions. So.
Yeah, it's never gotten any better. So,
well, here I'll go with one, Chief, that you can answer because I went long on that one. Tim Sears asks, which FCC player lasts the longest in a zombie apocalypse?
That's a hell of a question.
That's a good one.
Rule number 1, or one of the many rules that we learned in the movie Zombieland, is you don't have to be the fastest person. You just have to be slightly faster than the slowest person. I like Lucho to survive a zombie apocalypse.
Ooh.
Small, fits into a lot of different spaces for hiding. Hiding, very important in the zombie apocalypse. You don't want someone who thinks they can fight back in the zombie apocalypse. Rule number one, hide. And it also depends on, how this particular zombie apocalypse works. Are we talking about, a Last of Us type zombie apocalypse where eventually the clickers and all them, they attach to the walls and they become sedentary and you can sort of wait the apocalypse out to a certain extent? Or is this like we're going to constantly have a fresh state of zombies around? I'm liking Lucho to survive the zombie apocalypse.
I think it's a good pick.
Yeah. You're also looking for something that's a little resourceful. So who you might bet on in this one is Miles Robinson. He seems like a cerebral, doesn't ever get too far in or over his skis on things. Miazga, a little bit of an aggressive type.
Back.
He fights back. You can't fight back against the zombies. You're going to run out of bullets too fast.
Yuya Kubo would be my pick. He is can adapt to any situation.
Ooh, this is true.
He has experience traveling all over the world. I think speaking multiple languages would be useful in any sort of survival, apocalyptic, collapse of society situation. I think my money's on Kubo here.
I think the answer is anyone that knows how to fly a plane. Because if you can fly a plane, you can probably get to somewhere the zombies aren't. I never understood that in the zombie apocalypse. Really what you're looking for is you're looking to get to as far away as possible with a place that has a grocery store that is still intact, where you can live off the canned goods for, 4 or 5 years.
There's a YouTube channel, Game Theory, that I think they were the ones that did this. They did a pretty good job of explaining how long could you last in just a Walmart?
Yeah.
How long could you go? And they brought up a good point. You could go a couple of years just based on what's on the shelves, so long as you rationed your calories, right? But if you were resourceful enough, you could probably plant enough of the produce to start cultivating potatoes pretty early on.
Yeah, I've seen The Martian too. This is a solid survival strategy in space as well.
Yeah, you could get pretty far if you found a couple of things to start planting.
Get to an island. First thing you got to do is get to an island.
Who did you think is the most likely to know how to fly a plane on the team? Who would have done that?
Kubo also. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and start the rumor. Kubo has a pilot's license as well. He flies in his spare time.
It feels like something Brett Halsey could get into. He randomly has a helicopter's license or helicopter's pilot's license. Yeah.
He's a Northern Virginia guy. That sounds about right.
Yeah, it'll work. Brett Sova asks, will Kelsey score more goals with his head or his feet this year?
Boy, I thought head was the lock on. Feet looked pretty good. He was shot. A Roman Berkey paw away from scoring one with his feet last night. I'm still going to go head because I think Lucho likes that, and he's going to score however Lucho wants him to score.
I like that after trading, Lucho just pulls him aside. No feet.
No feet.
No feet here.
Feet are mine. You head. And Kelsey knows his role and goes out there, and if the far post is covered, he's just going to go near.
I love it. I think we can wrap it up with this one here. I don't want to burn too many of these without Grayson.
Yes.
So Key asks us, the guests you get on your pod have been amazing. Well, thank you, Key.
Thank you. Wow.
Who are the soccer personalities you would love to have on the pod still? Is there anyone you've reached out to that just hasn't worked out for some reason?
That's actually kind of funny. I don't think whenever we reach out to people, we generally tend to get them eventually. It may take some time for schedules to work out just because, we all have 9 to 5s, you, me, and Grayson. We're doing this for love of the game, not to make any cash money off it.
Yeah.
But the people we're interviewing do. So we don't have a problem taping from 8:30 to 11, but that's a hard ask for someone that is an actual working professional. So we've had to get creative with some of our bigger guests in terms of making time and making ourselves available.
Yeah.
Otherwise during the workday. But we're I think the number one thing that keeps us from getting guests is just a sense of shame. Like I'm ashamed to ask anyone to give their time to be on this dumb show that nobody listens to. Like if I got that request as someone that was important, the first thing I'd do is Google what is this show, and then it would become painfully apparent that nobody listens and nobody cares.
Yeah,
and
no, this is
there's
not,
just a bunch of rank amateurs in Cincinnati hosting shows out of their basement in their spare bedroom. So that's it. Like, to go inside the bit, this is actually not. I'm not joking about this. I think the thing that keeps us from getting guests is that we're kind of ashamed to ask people to be on the show.
Yeah, like that is genuinely like part of it. I feel a genuine sense of embarrassment sometimes reaching out, especially if it's like someone that like I'm really excited about having on the podcast.
I don't want to hear no. I don't want to hear.
That's the other thing too. I will say genuinely, we have never received a no thanks guys, not for me. We have not gotten that.
No.
I very much appreciate. There are, I want to say in my head, 2 folks out there that have agreed to come on, but we have yet to sort out scheduling differences. They're both associated with The Athletic, if that helps
narrows
anybody.
it down.
I'm not going to out anybody or like, I don't want anything like that. God, shaming somebody for not soon to be appearing. Oh man.
Yeah. Shaming someone for not appearing on a local podcast, for not even affiliated with any official media outlet. It's not like we have an SB Nation site attached to this. This is very much just a couple of dipshits with microphones and GarageBand.
If there were like, I know this isn't quite the question that's being asked, but I will interpret it this way as well. If there is a guest out there that we would like to have that we have not reached out to, it would be hard not to say John Harkes and Alan Koch. I think those would be 2 fantastic personalities and individuals with some interesting background for FCC. And I mean, that's it. You know, somebody asked me, like, in the world of soccer, who's the dream guest? And they were surprised I didn't say, like, Messi. But he doesn't seem that interesting.
He doesn't
speak English. And he just doesn't seem that interesting. Literally everything about him is known. Like,
right. Now, it's funny like that. Like, I don't, it's not just anyone. You got to have someone. So, like, when we interviewed Roman, for example, like, I'm not ashamed to say I think we've gotten a little better at doing interviews than when we first started.
Yeah.
Because I think we were just not sure what our tone was.
True. What are we? But
like, you need someone who's going to play along with the fact that we aren't going to ask pointed, insightful questions. We're not going to ask tactical setup. We're not going to ask, like, I'm not going to ask Roman, how it is that he reads someone coming off for a PK. I'm going to ask Roman, so, like, does it hurt when you jump like that a lot? Like, at some point, does your hip hurt landing on it all the time? Just, you got to have someone that'll play along with that bit. The other hard part is that you probably need someone, and it's actually kind of why I think soccer has struggled a little bit in the United States, is you need someone that, speaks English. It would be great. I would love to do an interview with any number of players on FC Cincinnati, but if they're going to have to go through an interpreter, I think that the risk of our brand of humor getting lost in the translation is really, really high. And I think it's difficult because you want, what I think I want out of an interview is I want some human, I want to learn some more about these people, and I want to let them let their hair down and let fans and let whoever is listening to this hear who they are genuinely, and not as many of the guarded, media type answers, because we're not asking the media type questions. So I think a lot of the big stars in soccer, it's very difficult to let them show their personalities like that, because I think more people are guarded when there's a language barrier.
Let me ask you this. I love the answer. If we were given the opportunity to get 15 minutes and we didn't have to like pre-vet questions or anything like that with Don Garber, would you do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I would.
Good. I want to make
But, like,
sure
I
we're on the
wouldn't- I
same
don't-
page.
But like, I also don't think that I don't think people would like the interview, because I think that it would be there would be a billion things, if you're listening to the show, that you would want us to ask Don Garber. And I would just say, so Don, if let's be real here, you really want to fight with the pro rel people online, don't you?
Right.
How many burners do you have where you fight with them?
When is Roger Goodell retiring so you can finally take the job that you actually want?
Let's make some news, Don. I want you to name 5 cities, just at random. You don't have to say why you're naming them. Just name 5 cities.
God, that would be so good.
So Don, do you like visiting New Mexico, Don? Great town, green chiles. Everybody likes that, right? Detroit. Now rate these styles of pizza? Detroit style pizza, Tampa Bay style pizza. But like, that's the shit that I want to do. Like, I want to interview people where I can have fun like that. Like, the original question is, who do you want in the American soccer landscape? I would love to interview some of the old guard of the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah.
Some of the original Oguchi Onyewu, Alexi Lawless, like guys I grew up watching, just because to me, the interesting part of soccer in America, the story of soccer in America, the people who were on the ground floor and were doing this when no one was paying attention. And even earlier than that, like back during the Winalda and Harks era, I want to talk to people that were the first Americans that played in MLS. I want to interview someone that was on the Tampa Bay Mutiny team that won the first Supporters Shield. I think that would be just to hear some of the stories of what this league was like when they were still trying to figure it out. I think that would be tremendous stuff. I think that would be really, really interesting.
And it's what MLS is lacking. Like, they don't have that. It's
like
frustrating.
telling the history, like telling some of this. I'd love to interview someone that was playing in the old NASL back in the 70s or the 80s. Like, what was it like when you played Pele? What was that like when he came over here?
Yeah, when that comes to town. Yeah, what do you deal with that?
But like, it's always got to be people where they've got an interesting story to tell, or they're going to vibe with what the vibe of the show is. And I don't know. There's not a lot of that in the American soccer landscape. And I think it makes us, at least from my point of view, it makes me a little more lukewarm about pitching people to come on. So I just don't know how people are going to react when it's the 3 of us and we're just complete, chuckle fucks.
Just goofing
like wasting
around.
their time with really dumb questions. We've gotten away with it up to this point, and I'm just waiting for it to bite us at some point. Like, I was worried about the Roman interview because Roman, every interview I'd heard with him was, he's kind of a little reserved in his media appearances.
Yeah.
And I was really worried he was not going to be down with just the vibe that we're going for when we talk to people.
What we're doing here.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you've got, no, legitimately, if you're listening to this and you have ideas for who you want us to reach out to, shoot them in the Discord, or you know what? If you're a Patreon and you want to submit a guest you'd like us to interview, or even just add us on Twitter. I guess you don't even need to be a patron to do that.
Yeah.
I promise I will reach out to one person that you name to try and get them on the show. But try and keep it to people that you think we would get along with. Like, don't, like Mike Watts, awesome, understands what we're doing.
Yes.
I don't know Taylor Twellman would understand what we're doing here. Especially now if he hears that rant about St. Louis I started this episode with.
Yeah, we have to make sure he doesn't listen to anything.
That's a good question, though. Yeah, no, it's we operate in this weird space where we probably shouldn't be asking people to be on this show, but we do because it keeps us entertained. We're just not big enough to rate for real guests at this point.
Yeah. It's a fun spot to be in, though, because we're also not journalism, but we're, it's...
We don't need this to eat. Like, this isn't we're not making money off this.
If we were, we're starving to death. Oh, my God.
Having said that, you know what? We'll commit to doing 3 segments if we find another sponsor. So that could be you. Like, this is a 2-segment show.
It's true.
Yeah. But keep drinking your street side beer. It's delicious.
More to come on Cincy
Shout out
shirts.
to Catherine for using the promo code and sending me a text message about it. That was always nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My brother did it recently. Love to see the fam supporting. And yeah, more to come on Cincy shirts. I think we're gonna have something exciting to announce this week. We'll see. We'll see.
All right. If you listen this long, there you go. There's your news.
Breathing it into the world.
Right.
Chief, get us out of here quick.
Gotcha. Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy Postcast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please, dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. I also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. If you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati. And like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it. If you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. Please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to this show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening.